2.5 years now, I have been trying to get Roger Corman to be my guest on this show. Didn't have any luck. He just didn't want to come up to the Bay Area to be a guest on something called Creature Features. Well, I heard recently that he was here in the Bay Area for a tribute and Mill Valley Film Festival. So I got my cameraman, Ron Willis, and he and I went over to the cinema shop to record an interview. And the first thing we talked about was his new film, Planet of Horrors. Roger, Planet of Horrors bears some resemblances to Alien. Were you inspired by Alien?
Not necessarily. Alien is in the tradition of the science fiction horror film, of which I had done a number in the 1960s. I did War of the Satellites, Battle Beyond the Sun, and a number of other films. I think these genres keep going. Alien is the biggest and probably the best of that type, until Planet of Horrors.
How did you approach it differently from Alien? What are some of the areas you tried to work in?
I was trying to work on a full-out shocker basis, to consciously shock the audience, but at the same time have a rather intellectual subtext. Now, I don't want to get pretentious about it, but the subtext is that somewhere on this planet is something that has the ability to go into the unconscious mind of every member of the spaceship that comes to this planet, find out what the unconscious fears of that person is, what they are, and make the planet do that for the person. So each person essentially sees a different kind of a planet and experiences a tailor-made fear, as it were, that fits their personality, their psyche.
Speaking of fear, when you make a horror film, what's your basic philosophy about scaring the audience? How do you go about that?
I try to recreate the childhood fears of the little boy or girl or even the baby. I feel that our task is to break through the defenses of the conscious mind and attack the unconscious.
Roger, you now have your own studio in Los Angeles where you've been producing your films, Battle Beyond the Stars and Planet of Horrors. Are there advantages to having your own studio?
Yes, very much so. For instance, on Planet of Horrors, which required a number of different monsters, if I'd been working at a regular studio where I was paying rent, I would have had to compress the time in which I shot the shock scenes. I was able, in my own studio, to spend more time shooting those scenes and to go back. For instance, there's one really wild scene. I won't tell you what the girl's fears were, but this one girl has an encounter with a rather phallic-shaped monster. And I told the director, if we get an R rating when you shoot this scene, you will have failed in your assignment. So he took a lot of time, went back, reshot the scene, and we got, matter of fact, when I saw it, I said, now wait a minute, X is X, but you've really gone too far. And he said, well, you know, you told me what to do, I did it. We went back 3 times to the Motion Picture Association to recut that particular scene and got it down to the point where it is just barely an R-rated scene.
Roger, it sounds to me like you're a producer who walks a fine line between exploitation and quality. You try to, as you said earlier, the film does aspire to higher levels. Is this something that you're consciously aware of every time you set out to make one of your pictures for New World?
Yes, this is a conscious policy of New World. It can't be expressed in every film, but in most films we try to make a film on 2 levels. There is the commercial exploitation level, and then underneath that is a level, a theme, a statement, a message, if you will, something that is important to me and I hope will be important to the audience. But it is always the subtextual level. We deliver what our ads say we're going to deliver.
Planet of Horrors has plenty of planets and horrors.
That's right.
You have your own special effects department now in your new studio. And what is some of the work that you've done besides for your own films?
Okay, we did John Carpenter's picture, Escape from New York. And we did a Star Bars commercial in which a Star Bar flies through outer space. We're doing a couple more commercials, and we'll probably do John Carpenter's new picture, The Thing.
Well, tonight's film, The Brain That Wouldn't Die, this is an awful exploitation film released in the early 60s. This is a film that could have led to the birth of women's lib. After you see how the women are so shoddily depicted in this film, you'll understand more about what I mean. I'm going to flip through these awful pictures real fast because, please try to endure this turkey tonight because my part of the show, as usual, is going to be unsurpassed. Dick Benjamin Paula Prentiss David Naughton in American Werewolf in London, and the producer of that new 3D film coming at you. Let's get over these awful stuff. Forget it. Just terrible. Let's get to the commercial. We'll get right away to our film, The Brain That Wouldn't Die, and then I'll be back with Dick Benjamin and Paula Prentiss. You've been watching The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Now meet The Marriage That Wouldn't Die. But first, let me ask the burning question, can a dark-haired, vibrant young man from Manhattan's West Side find happiness with a towering, vivacious young brunette from Texas? Well, in the case of Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentiss, it's been almost 20 years of marital bliss and theatrical teamwork, as the two have become a very popular husband and wife combination of stage and TV. Now they're starring in Julie Corman's comedy of terrors, Saturday the 14th, a parody on the old Dark House plot, which opens next Friday at several Bay Area theaters. Dick and Paula, I just want to ask one question. What's a nice couple like you doing on creature features?
I think this gives us some class being with you. I think we're stepping up.
You think so?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about...
This is our kind of show, I think.
Well, after making Saturday the 14th, it has to be. It's a crazy, zany, far-out movie, just full of monsters, but it's all in fun. It's all, none of it's to be taken seriously.
No.
How did you two get involved in the project?
Julie called my agent, I think, about me doing it, and then, as we usually do, Paula read the script, and she said, I like this, and I said, well, what about if Paula does this too? And they thought that was a good idea.
What did you think, Paula, when you read the script?
Well, I thought I would like to do the part, and it would be really the first time that we would be working together at the same time, because usually with the two children, one of us takes off and the other one stays with the children.
I see. Is this the kind of picture that's going to make you immortal in showbiz annals, or is it just a picture? Is it just sort of something you do to keep working? You had the opportunity to work together. How does it fit into your overall careers?
I don't know about our overall careers. I think our careers are sort of a day-to-day situation.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think of anything, of any picture, you know, where it might wind up in the little mini history of our careers. We just sort of see a script, and if we like it, we do it.
Yeah.
Do you find yourselves competing when you're working in the same picture, trying to upstage each other, as it were? What is it like working together?
It's a lot of fun. Sometimes one of us gets to do something the other one would like to do, you know, something in a scene, and I'll say, oh, you should have that line, and then Paula will say, but isn't my line really the truly funny line? I said, yes, but you see, it's necessary for my character to say this line. She said, well, you don't have any character in this, so let me say the line.
We also sort of have shortcuts in working, you know, that makes it fun. We know what the other one's about, so we know if we're being real or not. And I can actually, in a scene, say to Dick that first take was better.
Mm-hmm. That's the advantage of working together. Mm-hmm. What's the disadvantages of working with Richard? Paula, you can be honest with us. We're a very close-knit audience here.
Well, I'll tell you that if I don't get enough sleep and I'm going to work all day with him, I'm liable to have an argument like Beyond, because it's very difficult. You know, there's no difference between work and home, and sometimes it's just highly stressful.
What's the best side of Paula, Richard, from your point of view?
This side is very nice.
And what's the worst side?
No, there's no bad side.
There is no bad side.
There's no bad side to Paula.
When you're working in a horror spoof, is there any special way of approaching the material? Do you try to remain believable within an unbelievable context, or what's your psychology there?
That's a good definition of it. We decided in this picture that we were Ozzie and Harriet, and that we just had this swell life and this swell little family and everything was really swell. And these things happened around us, and we had nothing to do with them. And our kids kept telling us all the stuff that was going on. Paula finally got bitten by a bat, but of course, sweet Paula, Harriet, Nelson said it was owls. She would only look on the bright side of all of this, you know. That was really our approach to doing this.
Richard, I read recently that you were planning to direct a film. Have you done that yet? Did that come out?
No. I mean, I'm going to do it.
Can you
I have
tell us
no
about
idea
it?
if it's going to work out. Yes, I'm going to start September 21st, a picture called My Favorite Year at MGM. And it's a romantic comedy set in, I should ask you what, it is a certain year. What's your favorite year?
My favorite year?
What's
you
your
mean for movies?
No, just your favorite year.
Oh, I
If you
love
looked-
1948. That was a great year for
Oh,
me.
that was close.
Yeah.
That was close. This
Yeah.
movie is 1954.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think everybody has a certain favorite
They
year.
look back at certain incidents from that period,
Yeah.
yeah. What's your next project together? Do you know if you're going to do anything together? Stage, movies, TV?
We'd like to. We like to work together.
Do you get submitted a lot of scripts, husband and wife kind of thing?
Yes, we are talking about a script for next spring, right, in the summer. That's very interesting. It's a comedy. Well, what the heck? It's a horror show, right? It's a comedy about artificial insemination.
Oh, that's a topic we've discussed often on this show.
Is it true?
So, yeah, oh yeah, we know all about that here.
Is that right? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, really.
Yes.
We have all kinds of strange things on this
I'll
program.
bet. But it actually is a comedy about a couple who, because they all love each other, and their best friend becomes the father of the child. And they all think it's going to work out wonderfully, but of course it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Because the other father, who says, I'm just doing this because you guys are just great, actually feels like the father, and I feel like the father, and she's the mother, and has now these two husbands. It's sort of fun.
Well, we've got to get back to our movie. I want to thank you both for coming, and I want to remind our audience that Saturday the 14th, which is a Julie Corman comedy parody of the old Dark House story, opens at Bay Area theaters next Friday, and Paula Prentiss and Dick Benjamin play Ozzie and Harriet, more or less, in the leading parts. So don't miss that. It's a rollicking, funny satire from the Corman New World family. Thanks a lot for coming. And now back to, from the marriage that wouldn't die, back to the brain that wouldn't die.
Don't die, brain.